recording. All right. Good day, everyone. My name is Junior, and my surname is Mangani. Thank you very much for joining me for this quick tutorial. So before we start with this quick tutorial, I would like to make sure that you do have Visual Studio. The community version will be sufficient. 2022. We will be focusing on C#, particularly ASP.NET Core MVC. So this is a topic that it's a little bit problematic to a lot of people, especially beginners. So I figured I can do a quick tutorial just to give you pointers on what is design patterns. Particularly, we'll be focusing on builder patterns. So if we have time, I'll cover all of them slowly. But for this video, it will be more of builder pattern. So I know programming, you cannot learn it much by theory. So please bear with me. I just have 4 slides here just to go through the theoretical side of what is builder pattern, what it's all about, and to also give you an example on how you can use it. Maybe you will see and hopefully you see the benefit of using design patterns. Excuse me. So before we start, the big question, what is builder pattern? So in short, builder pattern, it's a design pattern that is mostly used to create objects. So I want you to indicate start from scratch. Okay, everyone, thank you for joining me. Today we have a quick tutorial that focuses on design pattern, particularly zooming into builder pattern. We will be using ASP.NET MVC to demonstrate how builder's pattern works. So please ensure that you have your Visual Studio Community 2022 so that you can follow along when we do the actual example. But before that, on your screen, you'll see that we have slides. I just made them just to quickly brush through on the theoretical side so that we can understand what is design patterns, especially zooming in on builder pattern. So I figured that a little bit of theory can help a lot in order for you to understand the components on what is required in order for you to start coding. It is easy for us to jump in straight to following along coding, but if we don't understand why we're doing what we're doing, then we get to miss the initial lesson. So let's just start by explaining what is design pattern. So design pattern, it is what is referred to a part of come on. Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining me. For today, we will have a quick tutorial, particularly focusing on one of the components of design pattern called builder's pattern. So for code demonstration, we will be using ASP.NET Core MVC. But before we start, we will go through a little bit of theory just to make sure that we all understand what is design pattern, particularly what is builder's pattern. So once we have this theoretical side, it will be easier for us to do practical solution. We're just going to pick one simple example that we mostly relate to and be able to craft the builder's pattern. So before we start, let's just explain what is design pattern. So design pattern, the official definition is that it is a reusable, a proven solution, meaning that it has been used before somewhere, more particularly for the common problems that we come across for software development, especially in the process of designing software's application. So you can think of design patterns as your templates or your blueprints that provide a structured approach to solving problems that are recurring. So this one is particularly used or common to the software development because it promotes code reusability, and it's easy for the software developers to maintain their code and also provide a structured way in terms of readability of the code side. So for us, we will be focusing on one category. There's 3 of them, but for now, let's just focus on the creational design pattern. So I want you to have it in your mind. We will be focusing a lot into objects. So now that we have understand what is design pattern, we need to understand what is builder's pattern. So a builder pattern is part of the design patterns that we just explained now that is used to create objects, underline the word object, providing a step-by-step instead of all these objects that we create at once. Why do we need that? So for that, it allows us to construct, if we have complex objects, in a more of a controlled way. So meaning that instead of having a long list of parameters, let's say if you're creating a constructor, then you can set properties gradually, like step by step. I think when we do an example, you'll see that it is easier to use this approach of step by step because it saves time. Again, it builds on the definition of design pattern, maintainability and readability. So I've explained now that it is part of the creational design pattern, which deals with objects. We'll talk about objects a lot because that is what it focuses on. So this one, it helps us to separate the construction from the representation, meaning that when we build our application that needs to use some sort of objects, we will build all of these objects in steps instead of doing all of them at once. So we'll do it step by step until we get to the final object that we want. So this in turn, it solves the problem of too many constructors, parameters. So if you have a long parameter there, you can help you to break it down so that we set values one by one. Okay, here's an example. Let's say you're in the process of buying a car now. So when you want to buy a car, you don't just go to the dealership and say, give me a car, okay? So what you do is that you'll have many choices to choose from. And those choices will be prompted by the questions that you probably have asked yourself based on the desire of the car that you want. Like, for example, you ask yourself, what engine type do I want? Do I need petrol, diesel, or hybrid? What color do I want? Do I need red, black, or white? And what wheels do you want? Do I prefer alloy or steel? And then you can also ask yourself, do I want extra features of my car, such as your sunroof, your leather seat, and also your reverse camera, all those types of things. So you see, you realize that you didn't just go and do all of these things as one. So you ask yourself like questions in order to come up to the car of your choice. So if we were designing this in C# or any programming language without using builder pattern, so you will have to give all of these choices at once, which can be confusing to the salesperson. But when we use builder's pattern, you will be able to guide them because you will be choosing the specs of your car or extra features step by step, which will make the process a little bit clear to them and also easy to manage so that you can get the car of your choice. All right. So now, why do we use builder's pattern? So first, it prevents our constructors overload issues. A constructor, once again, just a reminder, it's just a method that is used to create objects. So if an object has many configurations, the constructor may need many parameters, which will make it hard to read and maintain. But when you use builder's pattern, it avoids this by allowing the software developer step by step to construct this step by step. So also again, it boils back to the definition of design patterns as it makes the code easier to read and also to maintain. So, okay, so we will do an actual example when we start with C# in a moment. We just left with one slide, and then we'll start with the actual example. So again, just to dial back, your builder's pattern, it helps us keep objects immutable. Immutable, again, it just means once created an object, it cannot be changed. So our builder's pattern will help us to ensure that once we create an object, it does remain fixed. So sometimes it is referred to fluent APIs. So fluent APIs just allow us to chain method together in an attempt to attain or to make our code a little bit cleaner. So here's an example. Let's say you're owning a rental car business. So now you want to order a car in a particular city where you stay. So I just want you to imagine that you're ordering that particular car from a dealership. And once you do, you'll see that this ties back to the first example that I did, because the application that we will be doing will be along these lines. So you won't pick everything at once, just like the first example. You do everything step by step. You choose the model first, and then you choose the diesel type. The order at this stage, it doesn't matter. You can start with another one, and then you can talk about the features that you want that are not part of the initial car that you want. And then the last thing that you would do is to give them a final confirmation to ensure that all the specs of your choice have been selected. Builder patterns works like that in programming, as it will allow you as a developer a step-by-step construction of object. Please don't forget that it focuses on the object. Right. This is an example that we are going to solve in coding. So we will be designing a pizza ordering system. So the problem without builder's pattern when it comes to the pizza ordering system. So I want you to imagine now that we want to order a pizza in a program. And then if we use a normal constructor, we might need to create a constructor, like for instance, you say var pizza, you assign new, this is the keyword pizza. And then inside of your constructor, you'll pass in the size of your pizza. You'll pass in maybe how you want your pizza to look like in terms of the bread. And then you can pass this into a list, and then the flavors of a pizza, you realize that what we're doing here, we are overloading our constructor. And if you want to customize your pizza a little bit longer, you realize that it becomes long. It works, but the problem is that it will be hard to read and also to understand to the person who will maintain your code. And then we don't know which parameters which when you do it like that. And if we add more option, again, the constructor gets even bigger, which causes a little bit of confusion. So what will be the solution for this problem? Because it is a common problem among software development. So we can use builder's pattern among design patterns. So instead of passing everything at once, you can build this pizza step by step. For example, you will start by choosing the pizza size, which you'll have a small and medium and large. This is the example that we'll be doing, by the way. And then you can choose the crust, whether you want the thick one, stuffed or thin. We're doing this step by step. We're not overloading this into our constructor. And then you add toppings. Of course, you choose that, and then you ask the user if they want to choose extra cheese, and then you confirm their order. And then there you go. And then you have your pizza. So that is how builder's pattern works in short. So enough with theory. Let's just start the C# problem. So I'll just end my slideshow. Okay. All right. So what we need to do now is I want us to stop to start our Visual Studio. Remember, we are creating our pizza ordering system following the builder's pattern step-by-step option, and particularly on the object creation. So you can open your Visual Studio on your machine. Then let me just go back, and then you click here, create a new object. Remember, the main aim is for us to use ASP.NET Core MVC. So if it's the first time you're doing this, you will come here, you click the drop down. If it's the first time, you'll see that the default one will be all languages. For you, we are using C#, so you just select C#. And then here, you don't have to pick it, you can leave it like that. And then the end one, make sure that you go, because I'm creating a web application, you choose web application. And then there at the top, there is a search bar. All I want is for you to type MVC. So you realize that there is the two ones that popped up, and then you have a borderline there. It is important to check this green text there because that points you to the language that you're supposed to use. So for us, we are using MVC. So you want the one that says Model View Controller, not this one, the .NET Framework. So you just click it once, and then you click Next. And then we're going to give this a name. Let's just call this order. Call this ordering pizza system. Builder. It's a long name, but it works. And then you click Next. So on the framework, I'm not sure which one you're using, but for me, I'm using the latest one, .NET 9.0 for you. It might be a little bit lower, that's okay as well. Everything else you don't have to change. You click Create, and then just give it a moment so that it can create our project. Perfect. So we have our structure set up here. I'll just close. So just to give you guys an idea, for this one, we're not going to create or use a database. It's just a code demonstration. We will be using list in order to store like our data for the pizza, especially because we have a little bit of things that are more like you have your toppings, you have a lot of options that you can select there. We can use a list. Maybe in the future videos, we can use an example for using databases. So you just need to focus on these three folders. After all, ASP.NET Core, MVC, it's all about these folders. So how I like to explain these three folders to people with easier is that I want you to picture you're going into a particular website, you type that URL, and then you search whatever you want. And then once everything is done, you get the results on your screen. So I like to explain it like that whenever you as a user, you send a request, the controller will handle that request and goes in and search for data that you want. Let's say you're visiting your school website, there's something that you want there. And then when you click that, the controller will do all of those things to handle that request. It goes into the model. The model is the one that will interact with the data that you want. And then once it has everything that you requested, it will load it into the view so that you can see the output or results on your side. So that is how it works. I'm not going to touch on the other things here because we don't need them at this stage. Because we are not using databases. As I said, in the future videos, we will be able to touch them. So because we are going to store data here that we would want it to be displayed on the view, so it makes sense that we start with our models. We create our models. This is where we create our concrete classes. Our concrete classes that we'll have here, it sort of represent the tables inside of our database if we were using a database. The properties, that's what it represents. So we'll ask ourselves, what properties do we want our Peters to have? This is data, so we will store this inside of our model. Remember, it interacts or deals with data. So in the meantime, when you collapse this, you realize that you have one class there that is created by default. So we want to add our own. So what you need to do, you right-click model, and then you click the add button all the way. You're creating a concrete class. So you just click class, and then there you see it's highlighted in blue, meaning that it's ready for you to type. So let's call this class pizza. This is our model class. So we'll just call it pizza. And then we leave it like that. So to make it short, we're going to have our pizza will contain the following properties. We are interested on the size of our pizza. And then we also need the types of toppings. And then we will also need extra cheese for these are extra features. And then also the crust that users might want to select. So let's put a comment. It's a good practice. And then we'll say these properties for our pizza. And then here's a shortcut of typing a property. Type the word prop. You press tab in your keyboard. Then we'll start with the pizza size. So for now, because our size it's not value based, it is string where you have your small and then your large and your medium. So it won't be wise to leave a data type as an int. So I'm change this and call this string. And then we're going to call this size. Okay, so this one will contain, let's just put there, our sizes will be small, and then we'll have medium, and then we'll have large. Okay, and then the next one, we'll just say public. We want to do the toppings. We'll have a number of toppings we don't know yet. So we just want the user to select toppings that we will do it. So it's wise that we go with the list for now. And then our list will be a string as a type. And then we're going to name this property toppings. Okay, and then we do our get and set. Okay, Then we will create a new list. And then the type again will be a string. Okay. This will allow our users to select the topping that they want. And then now we're going to ask our users, do they want to add extra cheese? So this tells you that it needs a yes or no, meaning that it's a Boolean property. So we'll just say public bool extra cheese, and then we'll do our get set. For now, yeah, let's do our private set. And then we need to close it. Okay. And then lastly, we need the crust, which will be public string crust type. The spelling there, always struggle with spelling types. And then we are going to get our get, and then private set. Okay, so the class for now, let's add comments there, will be either thin, thick, or stuff. Perfect. So now what we need to do now is to add one less property, and then that property will serve as a private constructor that will enforce the object creation via builders. So let's add the comments there. We'll say create a private constructor to enforce object creation using builder. Okay. All we need to do now is to say private pizza. And then you put your constructor there, and then you close it. We don't put anything inside of this constructor for now. You just leave it like that. Okay, so now we are going to build a class for constructing this pizza object. So let's do that. We'll just say there, create a builder class that will be used to construct pizza objects step by step. So what we are going to do now is to create that builder class. So that will be public class builder. Perfect. So inside there, we are going to create a field. So that will be private pizza. And then we'll give this object name pizza underscore pizza. And then we assign a new pizza. We're building our pizza now. So we say pizza, and then you construct it. Perfect. Now, all we need to do is we need a method that will be used to set the pizza size. So I'll add a comment here. Method to set our pizza size. So all we need to do now is to create that method, public builder. And then we'll call this set size. Remember, our size is represented by a string, so we are going to pass it as a parameter there. Okay, good. And then inside there, we'll assign our object that we created there for pizza underscore pizza. And then we'll say dot. You should be able to see size property there. And then we're going to assign it with this variable that the user is going to select when we test our application in the main method. So all we need to do now is to return. We say return this, and the purpose we're doing that is because this method, it allows the method chaining. So say allow for method chaining. Perfect. We are moving. It's not a big one, but it will show you guys the basic idea on what is required. So we're not done. So now we'll do the method for, just gonna copy this to save time for the topping. So let's scroll down a bit, say method to add topping, and then we'll say builder, and then we'll say add topping. The string as well, then we'll say topping. Okay, so we want topping here. So you just say size. You just say size, not size. We're looking for topping, which is toppings. And then you say dot add. Remember, this is the list. And then you're going to add the topping that the user is going to select. Add, which is this one there. And then you just close. And then we have already done the return this. So again, copy. And then we go. And then now we'll say method to specify if extra is added. Okay, the same thing. So when we get here, we'll just say set extra cheese. You have to be descriptive when you're giving these names. Remember, we're expecting a yes or no there. So we'll just say bool extra cheese. And then inside there, we'll just remove it. And then we'll say dot extra cheese, assign extra cheese. And then we just close. Almost done. Then we paste. And then this one, method to set the type of crust. And then we'll say set crust type. And that will be the string. We'll say crust type. Okay. Right. And then we'll say crust type. And then we just assign our parameter there. And then lastly, now we need a method. Say method to build the final pizza object. This is when everything has been set up step by step, and we want to create our pizza. So we say pizza and then you say build. You can call it anything, just easier like that. And then inside there, we'll just say return. Remember, when you go up there, this is the pizza that we are returning. This is the final pizza that we are returning. So everything now is good. So there's a lot of coding here, just a quick summary. So we created a method that is build pizza. And then that build pizza or pizza builder there. So what is used there? We use this to mimic the builder's pattern. And then the pizza object will be used to pass the view that will be seen by the user at the end. And then in that way, we can take it from there. So now what we want to do is, because now we are still far from, we only did the models. So what we need to do is to continue and work with our controllers. So whenever you pass in a view in this stage, what is needed from our side is to ensure that when a user chooses to create the pizza object, and then that will be passed through to the controller, and then the controller will take everything to the view. So again, what we did, we defined a pizza class with a couple of private properties. And then inside here, we have a builder inner class, which is that one that helps us to construct our pizza using builder patterns, meaning step by step. And then we have a method that returns a builder itself using the return this, which allows the Fluent API calls. And then the build, we created a build method. Just scroll down a bit there. That will return the final pizza object. So what we need to do now is to go to our friend, which is the controller. So I'll just click Control Save, and then I'll go to the controllers. So now we want a controller for the pizza builder. I'll right click there, and then we'll say Add Controller. And then we want an empty one because we will do this ourselves. So a quick note here on the controllers, you want to make sure that it has a suffix name controller. So the reason that it had one is because home controller already exists inside there. If you click expand there, you'll see it. So I deleted the one so that we can assume the suffix controller. So now I'll just delete home. And then if the best way is to ensure that your name of your controller matches with the model, makes it easy for the application to match these things together. So I'll just call this pizza. So that will be pizza controller. And then I'll just click add. Okay. So there, because we are using list, guys, it is fine for me to import the collections, the generic, which you by using systems. Sometimes it will help you do this itself. I find it easier to do it rather than waiting at the end. So say collections.generic, because we will be using list. So as I said, we're not using a database at this stage. So we have a default method here that is used. This is the one that the view will be called at the end when everything is fetched. So we don't need to change. This is the name of a method. I know the method we are used to creating public name of a method. You put a method return type, and then you give a method name. For here, we use iActionResult. This is a method as well. So now what we want to do, we'll leave it like that. We'll return the view. At this stage, we don't have anything in the view. So most of the time when you do it like this, you must create that view that you want to see when this is called on the user. When the user you click, you create your pizza, and then the controller takes the data from the pizza according to what you've done, and then display all the results to you. So for now, if we return this, our view is empty. You'll even realize that now it doesn't have anything. So when I say go to view, you will see that it says unable to find a matching view because we don't have anything. So let's just create that. So we'll say public I action result, and then we'll say build pizza. So this will be called in conjunction of this when we build a pizza. So for simplicity, I'm going to use a var keyword to create our pizza. And then we're going to say new pizza. Should be pizza, not controller. Pizza dot, we call the builder method because that's the one that will give us the final pizza. So I'm just going to move to the next line because now we're creating our pizza. So we'll start by choosing the set size. You can do this in any order of your choice. So I'll say pizza for now, just populating for now, and then we'll say pre-populating, sorry, and then we'll say that will be large, and then the toppings, and then this one, will be, you can add the topping of your choice, pepperoni. Okay, and then we will add another topping because we used our list. Remember, you can add as many as you like. And then that will be mushrooms. And then dot set. We want to add our crust now. And then our crust will be thin crust. This can be up to you. And then we'll say set the crust. It will be set dot set extra cheese. So we want extra cheese, so we'll just switch to true. And then lastly, dot build our pizza. Okay, and then once we're done, we are just going to say return view, and then in the view, and then we say pizza, and then we just close there. Okay, so now what we have done is to add a constructor, and within that constructor, what did we do? We added a constructor by ensuring that our constructor resumed the suffix name that is called pizza, not pizza, controller, and we give it a name called pizza. So that is what we did. We don't do much here because it's just an example. And then we did create our pizza according to how we want it. And then all now we need to do is to pass this into our view. So here's a quick summary of the actions that we did now. We added a controller that will be used in conjunction with our view. And then within that, we created our view, we mimic like a basic pizza here. Of course, in the real world, it could be something different. So now what we need to do is to go to our view. So we're just going to save this, and then let's go to our views. And then we're going to right click our views. and then we will create a folder. So I'll call this pizza again to match the name of our controller. So that will be pizza. And then inside there, I will add a view, basic view, which will be empty. And then I'll leave it as index. Okay. So I'll just delete everything that is there. Okay. So now what we want is to write our view code that we want, basic again, not extra. You get the idea by this simplified example. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to, whenever you want to write a C# code, you'll start with that add. So I want to see everything inside of my module, which is the pizza. So I'm just importing that. And then this is HTML stuff here, similar. We call them razor pages, but the syntax is HTML. So I'll start with H2 tags. You can consider this with your headings when you're dealing with the heading. The biggest heading is heading 1, and then heading 2 is smaller than heading 2. And then by the numbers, when you go down, the text will become a little bit smaller. So we're just going to say your pizza order. We can use Bootstrap to format this, but for this, it is outside the scope of this tutorial. And then we'll use the paragraph tags. Inside the paragraph text, so I want to get this to a strong tag, and then we will put size there so that I emphasize this one. Okay, and then inside there we will call our now use the capital letter M for model, and then dot. You should see size there because we showing the size there. And then we're going to repeat this. So I'm just going to copy that, copy, and then I'll paste it 4 times for now. And then now we want, this will be the static text that will be displayed extra, but with a strong emphasis. And then inside there, we'll say dot. We're looking for the extra here. And then this will be the model. In fact, this, we need to put it inside of the brackets. So that will be models dot extra. Extra, we're looking for extra cheese. So that will be cheese. And then we're going to use a short operand for the if statement. So if the user selects yes, what's going to happen? And then we just show that. If it's no, it will show no. If they choose to say yes or no, and then we do the else part, which is no. And then we are done. And then we will, sometimes I found that the order that you do, it's important. So we can start here. But for your case, maybe it won't work because sometimes it does cry if the order is not the same as what you've done inside of your controller. So do this, this will be the class type. And then inside the model, we're looking for crust type. So be crust type, perfect. And then we will do toppings. And then okay, the size, just put semicolons for readability. You don't have to do this. And we can't go to this trouble for maintainability and then we neglect it and we come and show this side. For the toppings, because we're relying on a list, so we will do it differently. So we'll just remove there and not put anything because we want to pass in and show that as a list. And by doing that, I'm going to use the unordered list. And then inside there, I'm going to use a for each statement. I'm using the @ sign because now I'm switching to C# for each. And then we'll open that. I'll use the var keyword. We want to call this toppings in model with the capital letter M dot toppings. And then we're going to open our curly braces. And then inside of our curly braces, we're going to have a list, li. And then inside of that list, what do we want to see? We want to see the toppings. Topping. And then that's it. So all we need to do now, you're going to save this and test your application to see if it works. So normally you run it and go and type in your URL. I don't like it like that because it gets confusing. So I like to set it. So I'll go to the views tab, go collapse shared, and then I'll get the layout. So the layout, this is where we see our project. Not the what we see when we run. I didn't run this application. It comes with a default template. So when you run it, you'll see two tabs there, which is home and privacy. So what we need to do now, I'm just going to copy this list. This is the navigation. So I'll just copy the last one. I'll leave those ones as it is. And then we're going to change here the controller. What did we call our controller? Now you go back here inside of your controller, and then you see you call it pizza controller. But when you come here, you don't add the word suffix controller, you just call it pizza. And then your action, this is the method that you have created inside of your controller, which is this one. This is the one that we want to return back, this. So we're gonna go and call this. So I'm just gonna copy this it's gonna go and refer to this pizza that we have. I'll go to our layout, and then I'll just call this. And then one thing that I have to mention, the controller here needs to match with this folder there so that it can find it. And then now we're gonna give this a name. We'll say order a pizza. Order a pizza. Okay, and then that's that. Just save and then execute your application. Okay, just wait a bit. It's gonna take a little bit of time. Okay, you can see there when we click order pizza. Okay, we have a problem there. Invalid operation exception. The view builder pizza was not found. The location pizza build.ch. So now we're gonna go back to, I called it index. So what we need to do there is to call the index. So I need to go and change that side as well. Let's go to the controller. And then this one should be the same. That's the beauty of programming, that when you are writing this, you have to troubleshoot. Okay, we want to find out if that, okay, so let's call this index. it doesn't like that, so it's fine. Then it means that I need to change the view name there so that I can call it the match. There is a mismatch, unfortunately, at this moment. That is why it's not running. And we will troubleshoot together. I'm not going to close this one so that when you come across this problem on your site, you will know how to solve it. So copy this name for your iAction method and then go to this guy. This is the mismatch that I was talking about. And then you're going to give it like that. And then you save. Let's rebuild our solution. Rebuild. And then we'll cancel this. And then we'll run it again. There we go. So now you see you have your pizza. Okay, that is that, guys. We're done with our session. So I hope you are fine. You have a basic idea now of how Builders Pattern works. I will see you again when we have another tutorial. Take care. Thank you. This is Ctrl+Alt+Teach.